Hey YouTube, it's the 40 Watt Garage. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back. This is the first episode of installing my Whitby Motor Cars tonneau cover onto my Factory 5 Mark IV Roadster. I purchased both the soft top and the tonneau cover from Whitby, and they recommend installing the soft top first. Reason being is the soft top and the tonneau cover share the majority of the lift the dot studs that you install in the bodywork, so you can transfer what was used from the soft top to the tonneau cover pretty easily. This series of video, though, I'm going to approach it as if nothing has been done to the car, starting from scratch, a blank slate. And I'm also going to intercut video for pertinent steps from the soft top install onto this tonneau cover series, because I don't have to reshoot them. It's the same stuff. A word of warning is the supplied instructions for the tonneau cover are, being generous, they're poor. In my opinion, they lack in detail, they are pretty vague, and they assume a lot from the installer to know what's the proper thing to do or how to check or double check things. So I'll be interjecting my opinions or my tips and tricks throughout the video. That's about all for now. I'm going to get started, and I hope that you follow along. Included with your tonneau cover, you are going to receive 23 lift the dot fasteners and the backing washers. I believe 13 of the threaded stud style with washer and nut, and 10 of the kind of sheet metal screw type stud and backing washer. Step 1 of the installation instructions is use the rear diagram, marker, and a tape measure to mark the position of the rear stud on the body. Okay, which rear stud? I would assume that they mean the center rear stud. So using the rear diagram, and this is the rear diagram, they give you 2 7/8 inches from the trunk lip. This area back here must be the trunk lid itself, or the trunk opening as they call it. And then they call out 16 inches from the outside edge of the trunk opening over 16, and then up 2 7/8. Well, this brings up another point about the Factory 5 Roadsters. Nothing on these cars is symmetrical. You can take nothing for granted as far as things being in the middle. I have the advantage of stripes on my car, so the position of my rear stud is a given. It needs to be 2 7/8 from the trunk opening and dead smack between my stripes. So having stripes on your car is an advantage for this part of the installation. For those of you that don't have stripes on your car, this is what I recommend that you do. Get some low tack or delicate surface masking tape and project a line where this radius of the trunk opening, you could say, breaks, and lay the tape down without buckling it, just where it wants to lay down. Do that on both sides. You don't want the tape buckled, just you're projecting that line up. And then again, this is low-tack tape, just wider. Lay some tape down on your car. Then use a pencil instead of a marker. I have a nice stainless scale here. You could use a tape measure. Lay that down. Match up the end of your scale with the tape edge. And then go beyond 16. Go to 18 inches. Then flip the scale over. Set your line. Go to 18 inches. Now split the difference between those two. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and 7/16. So half of that. And 1, 2, 3.5/16. And what do you know? My pencil mark lines up exactly where my stud is installed, or would line up exactly where the center of my trunk opening would be. Now, just for grins, doing this, I'll lay this down and 16 inches winds up here, and 16 inches winds up there. Neither one of these is in the center of the car. So depending on which side you started from, you're inherently going to be off by, this is almost 5/8 of an inch. So project your trunk opening, over measure either direction, split the difference. That is your true center line. Then you can measure up 2 7/8 from where your trunk lid breaks. Right here where that radius starts, 2 7/8. Bam. That guarantees that you are in the center of your car and the correct distance forward. Step 2, use the side template to mark the position of the stud. Do not mark the grommet. It is for the convertible top if used. This is where the instructions get a little vague and left up to interpretation. Now, the template that they supplied with the tonneau cover is a print of a CAD drawing, and it just does not look properly to scale. The edges of the lines are jagged. It just did not print or translate very well. This is the template supplied with the top, and it appears to be a copy of a pencil sketch, but it seems to be a bit more accurate. And I have measured this one out to where the stud location is 1 inch rearward of the door opening and 1 15/16 from the line that they project. Now, this is where things get a little gray because it's kind of left up to interpretation. because of where this edge breaks or rolls. Where do you lay the template down on the car? And I made an executive decision to put the edge of the template where the cowling breaks. It goes from kind of the flat to where it breaks and wraps around. So that is where I laid the template down, and then marked the holes for, well, for my top ferrule and for that first stud. And that number works out to about 1 15/16. If you kind of follow this imaginary line of where the cowling breaks. And then again, 1 inch back from the door opening. So again, this is up to interpretation. This is what works on my car. So 1 15/16, 2 inches, and then 1 inch back. Again, lay down some low tack masking tape, mark your hole. And then repeat on the passenger side, same thing. Step 3, fit the cover around the roll bar. Step 4, fit the cover around the steering wheel. Step 5, fit the cover around the rear view mirror. Use duct tape to hold the stretch cover to the body. The rear view mirror is offset to the passenger side 1 inch. Well, here they go assuming things again. For one, I don't have my rear view mirror mounted on the dash cowling. And then 2, I'm not putting duct tape anywhere near my paint. That stuff is diabolical. It leaves behind residue. It's sticky. I'll try to use some painter's tape or something that I know that's not going to leave residue. So, in the interest of fairness, we're going to get the tonneau and follow steps 3, 4, and 5. Again, this is probably where a helper or a second set of hands would be of an asset, but we will try. Step 6, stand back from the car and see how straight the zipper looks. Adjust it if necessary. Well, the zipper is off, it's skewed. And the zipper is not down the center of the tonneau cover. It is offset to the passenger side a couple of inches, just by design. Step 7, the marks made on the body should be under some marks on the tonneau cover. Okay, well, we put a mark on the body here for this stud, and I don't have any marks on the tonneau cover suggesting a location for that stud. Let's check the other side. No marks suggesting a stud location. There is a seam where this edge reinforcement was sewn on, but No mark suggesting a stud location. And on the rear center, no marks, just what's probably a manufacturing or a production number. So no marks. Step 8, stretch the fabric for a good fit and remark the position for a post if necessary. Well, there's nothing to remark because there was nothing marked in the first place. Allow 1 inch of cover overlap so the snap plates can have enough material. Step 10, drill an 1/8 inch hole through the tonneau and the body where marked. This is, I think, where the instructions go away. Now we're going to do it the 40-watt garage method. The next several steps from number 10, where they tell you to drill a hole through your cover and the body where marked, the next several steps are how to install the lift the dot fasteners down to where you're going to install the fasteners on the 3 posts that you have drilled and mounted in the car. And then after that, working your way out, installing the other posts. There is not a single mention of spacing or of dimensions or anything else. And this I can't believe, but the last step, step 22. If you find yourself making any mistakes, cut bait and find a professional top person to finish. I'm just going to leave that last statement where it sits. I've laid down an old bed sheet, and the tonneau is now face up, and I have velcroed together the areas around the roll bar holes, aligning the edges as best as possible, and stuck them down. And now what we'll do is flip it over so it is good side down or inside out, however you want to call it. I'm going to flop the steering wheel hole over. And the objective here is to find the true center line of the tonneau cover. So we are inside out. I'm going to fold it in half with itself. And try to line up these edges as best as possible. I know that it is not going to be perfectly symmetrical. I've got these big paper binders, so I can clip it together along the long edge here. And then working wrinkles out from the center. Line up this front edge. Yeah, you can see this. See where the two halves come together, it tapers away. So you can't perfectly line it up. But along this back edge, it does line up pretty nicely, except for this area here. but it comes back together. And then I'm going to clip this together. And what this accomplishes is it finds the true center line, center of the tonneau cover. I have a China marker. I'm going to fold this and make a mark on the fabric, inside and out, on the true center of this cover. I've shifted the camera, and this is the rear edge of the tonneau cover, forward edge up there. This is where the inclusion of some of the instructions for the soft top would be of real benefit. And specifically in the soft top instructions, they have a recommended spacing of the lift the dot fasteners that wrap around the rear of the car at approximately 7 inches on center. So what I'm going to do here is mark the tonneau cover around that rear edge at approximately 7 inches on center. These are not going to be my punch marks. They're not cast in stone. At this stage of the game, they are just a reference. So we've established our center line, and then there is stitching that goes all the way around, and that is where the fabric is reinforced with a double layer to where you can put your lift the dots through. So I'm just going to go around and make marks way up here, so I know that these are not my real marks, they're just a reference. And I'm going to kind of follow the curve and put my marks at approximately 7 inches around this arc. And just for S and G's, what do you know, they kind of match up. Another thing I want to do is measure the tonneau cover down the center line so I know how long it is, how much material I have to work with. So this will be just a rough number, an approximation, but close enough for what I need. And this works out to 4'6", which is 54 inches. The area that they give you for installing the lift the dots, which is where the fabric is doubled up, reinforced, folded over, between the stitching and the piping on the edges is roughly 1.5 inches. So you split that difference. If you put your snap in the middle, 3/4 inch. So you get about 1.5 inches on each side, front and back. Now that we have a well-established center point, center line on the rear of the car, we need to establish the same on the front of the car. Again, I have an advantage of having stripes on my car, so my center point is already established. It has to be dead smack between the stripes to maintain the cosmetics of it. For those of you that don't have stripes, least it falls this way on my car. You have to verify it on yours. But at the base of the windshield, there are two small holes. And I believe that these holes are for a support rod that came on some of these cars or some of the little British sports cars of the era. But on my car, these little holes are pretty dang close to being symmetrical on my paint stripe. This is kind of a close-up shot of what I was trying to explain earlier. If you see on either side of my stripe the two little holes in the base of the windshield, and they line up pretty darn accurately on my stripe. So measure your car from the windshield sidebars left and right to those holes. See if the math works out. And if you have a non-striped car, that may be your reference point to find the center line of the front dash cowling. And then again, I'm going to take some low-tack delicate tape, put it down in this area. And then I might as well just go ahead and wrap it around the top of the dash, because sometime down the road we're going to be drilling holes up here. So what I'm going to do is measure my stripe, which is basically 1 inch, and then mark it with a center line for my reference point for center of the stripe on my car. Now this may go against instructions, may go against whatever, but I have to maintain the cosmetic symmetry. This location may not be in the center of the car, but cosmetically it is, and that's what's going to be seen. Now that I've got the center lines established on the body, let's unfold the tonneau cover and see where those marks line up with the marks that we put on the canvas. Okay, our rear center line mark really isn't a question. It's going to be where it's going to be. That falls right in the middle where we want. Our front center line mark is just off center from the zipper, so a stud could go right here and be effective and look good. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but I just have to assure myself of a couple of things. One of them is maybe I don't install the rear lift-the-dots in the center of the reinforced area. And where I'm going with this line of thought is that if I put them in the center, measure forward to where I could install a forward snap or stud in the center of the reinforced area, am I going to have any dash cowling underneath here, or am I going to be on the edge? I want those screw-in sheet metal type studs to be away from the brake where the cowling rolls down. I want them in some flat meat of the dash. So I'm going to take some measurements on the tonneau and log them on this, and start from the center of the rear reinforced area to the center of the front reinforced area. And these are not exact numbers, they're rounded, but so I've got 51 and a half. So what I'm going to do now is go over to the car and transpose these numbers from my stud locations, or my proposed stud locations, and project them to the front of the car and see where these numbers lie on the dash cowling. If they're too close to the edge, I may have to shift where I punch the rear holes to bring enough material forward to get them to work. And there is also a little bit of stretch in this material, but I don't want a lot of tension on these sheet metal type studs. I don't want them to pull out of the fiberglass. So we're going to transpose these numbers and see what we get.